Hello and welcome to a special edition of the Neutral Cider Hotel podcast. Recently, a dear friend of ours, Susanna Forbes, passed away. Susanna was one half of the legendary Little Pomona Orchard and Cidery alongside her wonderful husband and sensational cider maker, James. They were frequent guests at the hotel, always bringing their passion for cider, their love of music, and a healthy dose of laughter to every single conversation. We all dearly loved her, and everybody in the cider community who met her felt the same. She was an unbelievably passionate cider advocate and an absolutely brilliant human being. The news of her passing has hit us really hard, and in the midst of our grief and sadness, we dearly wanted to pay tribute to her. We also thought it would be comforting to hear her voice and laughter once again. So what we've done is compile 3 interviews. That's how many times they were on the show. 3 interviews we've had with Susanna and James over the years. The first is a conversation producer Scott had with them back in August 2023 whilst he was on his road trip to England, when he was checking in with us and some of our favourite guests. After that, you'll hear our interview from March 2021, when James and Susanna not only brought several ciders for us to try during their second interview on the show, but they also brought along their assistant cider maker, Blair, to add his perspective to the conversation. Finally, you'll hear our very first episode from October 2020. The audio quality isn't brilliant, and it kept producer Scott up for several months, I suspect. But James and Susanna's audio sound fantastic, which is all that really matters, to be honest. So we're going to start off the show by sharing our thoughts on Susanna, and then we'll dive into the episodes. We hope you enjoy these conversations as much as we do, and thank you, as always, for listening and supporting the podcast. I first met Susanna, it was at an all-party parliamentary cider group reception at the terrace at the Houses of Parliament. I mean, that sounds wanky as anything you can get, isn't it? In 2012, I think it was, because she was drinks journalist and she was getting really interested in cider, and she was the first journalist I'd ever met a drinks journalist who'd ever shown any interest in cider. Beer and wine journalists just stuck with beer and wine, but she was like, no, I'm really interested in all drinks. I think she had already met Mr. Oliver by this point. And by the time I went to New Zealand and then 2013 and then come back in 2016, such was the interest in cider that she had that she had moved to Herefordshire and bought a place with an orchard and was making cider with her husband James. So, like, talk about putting your money where your mouth is. Amazing. And when I first came back, I had the idea of the ciderologist, but hadn't sort of put it into practice and didn't really know anything about the world of advocacy or journalism or anything like that. And I remember going to stay with them. It's been like 2016, summer 2016, and over a few interesting bottles of cider and wine, talked about what the opportunities could be. And she introduced me to lots of journalists and people who I know today and I'm friends with and have helped me along the journey. And so they're really, really formative early stages of the ciderologist, and which really expanded then into great friendship and camaraderie of working, just such fun, kind people. And by the time we get to like 2018 and especially 2019, Susanna and I were working on several projects, which meant that we spoke quite literally every single day. Full Juice was in full flow. We ran the Ciderlands festival and conference event in Hereford at the end of 2019 together, as well as working on various other projects. So like for at least a year, if not like a couple of years, we were sort of working side by side, and that's, just everything in addition to the development of the kind of probably pioneering cider brand that has helped to sort of create so much energy and dynamism and hype within our category over the course of the last sort of few years. So much of it can be sort of traced back to them. So from a very personal level, but also from a sort of professional point of view, Susanna and James's contribution to everything has been everything and mega and just absolutely sort of critical. So, I mean, people, especially, are irreplaceable, but, she had such an incredible and important part of our category that yeah, this is a real blow for all of us. For all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I first met Susanna at the Big Apple trials in Putney, I think it was. And I mean, I was aware of her and James, and in that way, where I knew I would probably meet them, and I was kind of feeling the I would be kind of starstruck when I did, and when you meet Susanna, she was just so down to earth, so welcoming. I stayed with her and James when I went and did Peter Mitchell's course, and I barely knew them, to be honest, but I was there for a full week, getting up at like 6 a.m. to drive from theirs to wherever the course was, and as you described, Gabe, every night began and ended with bottles being brought to the table. Dinner not happening till like 10 or 11
yeah,
at
that's
night.
right. Used to eat so late.
When can we have dinner?
So much heartburn.
We've already had like 2 or 3 bottles of cider or wine or something. And it was, I would sit there and I was like, and it wasn't like I sat and expected to have my dinner cooked for me. It's just that, that's what they would speak about what they were going to make. I was like, still not even cut an onion. Half night. Then James would saunter in and kind of start making it, and Susanna was always, as I was there, write. She was always writing something, and this stacks of books everywhere in the house, and it's not an exaggeration to say that Restock would not have existed were it not for Susanna, and therefore Abel would not have existed if it wasn't for Susanna, and that's in a very real way. She was, and I would imagine most people who have a business in this industry would say the same, and not just through kind of encouragement or kind words or offers of support, genuinely made that happen, and I I just hope that I somehow managed to convey how important she was to me and to us, and Jay and I, while she was still alive.
Yeah. Just trying to think of when I first probably met her was probably at the Cider Insider launch of her book at the Hawks Tap Room. And that would have been, I've got it on Instagram, that was like in 2018. Yeah, and it I don't know, it feels like I've known her way longer, but I'm just going back over and over and over, and like, it's, for me, with this industry especially, it's a drinks-based industry, you almost know people backwards through the drinks that they've made. And I've just looked, and Bashudo from James and Susanna was actually the first drink I've ever given a 10 out of 10. I was like, this is... But there was something about them at that time and the drinks they were making that I was like, what the fuck is this? And then actually meeting her, and then, like Grant's saying, going to their house and having her warmth and hospitality. And then I had the pleasure of working with them for a harvest, and genuinely, I'm kind of lost for words, but there was, it's not hyperbole, but there's no one else with that level of hospitality, warmth, and care that I've ever met. Yeah, just, I don't know what else to say, really. Like, you kind of like, we've lost someone who's that great, but to have hung out with her is a gift that I'll never forget.
Well said. Well said, my friend.
I obviously met her through the podcast. Setting up our interviews was always
because they
fun
appeared
time
how many times? Like hogging. Is it 9 episodes?
That was all Susanna as well, constantly.
Yes.
Hounding us. Give me an interview. All right.
And never a lack of technical challenges at all. But the thing that struck me about her specifically was that even after the interviews, she would reach out to me and she would ask me questions or check in and talk. And, you know, throughout the time that we've spoken to her over the last 4 years, even when Jake, my dog, passed, she reached out and sent a really nice note and was always so kind. And then in August of last year, when I was out for Gabe's wedding celebration, I was trying to figure out what to do while I was there. And she was the first to just reach out and say, you have to stay with us. Like, it wasn't a question. It was like, you're coming out and you're staying with us. And I thought it was like, oh, that's really sweet. And they were just basically going to put me up. But she basically had every minute of my time with her planned out. And it was because of the hospitality and the brilliant, shining human that she is, that she just doted over me and she wanted to give me the full experience of cider education. The second she picked me up from Gabe, she took me to the cider museum and we talked about it. And I was telling her things I thought were good and things I thought looked a little outdated, and she didn't disagree. Was asking for ideas and wanted me to work with them. And then we went back to Little Pomona and she had this whole thing where we had some snacks and she gave me different ciders and then was asking me to talk about it because she was really big on the whole idea of food with cider. The pairings was a big thing for her. And so she really wanted my feedback on eating these cheeses with these ciders. And she was like, oh, that's really interesting. No one's given that. And continuously gave me an education. Even when I stayed there we did the same thing. We were there at night, very late, ate at, I don't know, like midnight, I think, after drinking ciders and all kinds of stuff. And then the next morning she carried me out and walked me out into their orchard and was like, yeah, she carried me. That's the kind of woman she was. Walked me out into their orchard and then was showing me all the different apples and peeling them off and cutting them and having me sample them and telling me all about them. Her passion for cider is unmatched, unrivaled. In her ability to want to bring people in and get them excited about it is also special. But the most important and strongest feeling I came away with after that was she's just the sweetest, kindest, and most generous human I think I've ever met. And what she did for me in just 24 hours of just going out of her way and continuously maintaining that relationship just showed how much of an impression she left on this planet and on all of us, and how much she'll be missed.
Yeah. As you can hear, dear listeners, Susanna's made quite the impression with all of us in our own individual regards, and I think that was her greatest strength, is that she made everybody that she met feel so special and important, and that's a pretty amazing skill to have, I suppose. So for now, Susanna, thank you. We love you. We miss you. And wassail to you.
Wassail.
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 Hey there, it's producer Scott. I'm here in the countryside of England, Herefordshire to be specific, out here for Gabe's wedding celebration. And while I was out here, I had a little extra time, thought I would swing by and see cider being made and some of our favorite cider makers. And I'm sitting down now with one of our absolute favorites, a friend of the pod. They've been on multiple times. I'm here at Little Pomona with James and Susanna. How are you guys doing today?
Doing really well, Scott. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's lovely to see you here, and hello to everyone out there.
Lovely to see you as well. You've been so hospitable, and I've enjoyed my time here so far. And I just thought it would be nice to catch up since the podcast has been on a little bit of a hiatus, or maybe a lot of a hiatus, and see how things are going. So first question is kind of a check-in. I think we went on hiatus about 14, 15 months ago now. So what's been going on with Little Pomona in the last year and a half?
Gee, Scott, I can barely remember what happened last week, although a year ago. But no, we've been super, super busy. We've been kind of growing in terms of our production. So that's leaves us less days of each year to not be working. So we're working hard. But we've got some amazing ciders in the tanks and in the barrels and in the bottles. So we're really pleased. It's been a really fun time, really exciting time making cider with the brilliant fruit we've been able to source.
Each year we manage to work with some more fun orchardists, and last year we did a really fun project with 7 different orchards, but it was all Dabinet. So James and Lawrence, our cider maker, they fermented it all the same way, and then we got everyone together, the orchardists and a few key cider makers, and we tasted them all next to each other just to see what terroir is doing. So there's fun projects like that, and actually you've come at a really interesting time because we're just starting to firm up our discussions for this year's harvests. The first fruit in is already here, the cherries, but next there might be, who knows? I think we're talking about damsons coming in, even though they'll be a bit later. And we're now really trying to look for discovery for our next Disco Nouveau and the Perry pears, I guess, as well.
That's very exciting. And I've had a taste of quite a few since it's harder to get in the States, not impossible, but it's harder. And especially on the West Coast, I've only had 1 or 2 that you've been kind enough to send me. So I've been so delighted in pretty much everything I've had here, which is amazing. Probably, I would say the one we had last night might be the best cider I've ever had. So I love it. But one of the things I think I've learned here, spending a little bit of time with you and talking to other cider makers is everyone has their own kind of style, their own niche. And I think it's important because I don't know if this ever came through in the podcast, how you guys are different, right? Like a lot of people say, oh, we love Oliver's. Oh, we love Ross on White. Oh, we love Little Pomona. But now that I have been here, I've seen what you do. We've kind of gone through it and we've talked a lot about your process. I would love it if you would talk a little bit about what you think sets Little Pomona apart from the other ciders that are out there.
I think the main thing, and we talked about it a little earlier on, is like although we've grown the business, we've refused to compromise, and we haven't fallen into any sort of recipe cider making. So we're still completely led by the fruit and our intuition and our imagination. And we've been really very resistant to do anything other than just follow what's happening with the fruit and try and move it to a kind of nice, delicious conclusion. So I think that's, and I'm like, I completely get, as you grow, things get more difficult and you try and streamline things. I completely get that, and there's nothing wrong with it, but it's just not in particularly my psyche to do that. Like if we can do things in a difficult way, we'll probably choose that path rather than taking the easy path, which is, from a business point of view, from a point of view of making money, is insane. It just is not a very good way of doing business. So I completely get all the other ways of making cider because ultimately people need to make money and pay their bills. We just take a very difficult path sometimes to achieve that. And we've been growing, but you reach a point where when you're in a production business, the tendency is to go, well, we'll just make more each year and we'll sell more and we'll make more money. And that, again, commercially, that makes sense. But we've begun to question that. And so this year we've begun to embark on a few other projects, which rather than just relentlessly making more and more stuff, or more volume of stuff, we can actually branch out a bit and make some different products as well. So that's the kind of path I think we're going to take, at least in the next couple of years. Yeah.
The only thing I'd add is that James's philosophy is always as little intervention as possible. So it's about letting the fruits sing. And it's about, if there are different components, and we do use fruit other than apples and pears, there'll be locally grown fruits. But again, you're going to be able to taste the apple and the pear. And then the other thing that probably sets us apart is our complete obsession with matching everything with food and believing that it's so enjoyable to share these bottles, but also to have them on the dinner table at any time. So you'll often find us when you come to visit us at our tasting room, perhaps trying out a match with a cheese or thinking it through anyway. So it's a really fun time, and we're so excited to be carrying on this path.
And I think that's you've articulated it pretty well. And then, I mean, what I noticed, and again, I haven't been to a lot of cideries, but just the ones I have, and talking to you was just, I feel like you're almost a mad scientist in a weird sort of way, where as opposed to just like as opposed to a producer who says, I'm going to harvest these apples, I'm going to squeeze and get the juice, I'm going to bottle them, and I'm going to put them out to market. You're constantly thinking of blends. You're constantly tweaking the maturation of the juice. You're constantly doing slightly different things to it always feels like it's new and fresh and interesting, as opposed to someone who just makes something that everybody loves and then they just keep making that forever.
We definitely don't do that. We make nothing that people love. and then if they like it a little bit, we never make it again. And it's not kind of deliberate. I mean, like, we're definitely not scientists. I mean, we use very little science. I mean, we measure sugars, we measure pH, but nothing else really. So everything is more about our intuition and our imagination. You said minimum intervention, and that's true, but we mean minimum intervention with chemicals and machines. But we intervene all the time with our minds and our hearts, and that for me keeps things fresh. And like, there's so much you can do with just fruit without the need for adding anything else. And we continue to kind of explore all of those options, and we take influences from the wine world and from the spirits world and from the beer world, and we try and bring them into our cider making as well.
And I think that is also an interesting perspective, which is you were in wine for quite a while, so you have kind of a wine brain as you look at this stuff, which not a lot of cider makers have. Not that they don't understand wine, but you just have a completely unique perspective in the sense that you understand the subtleties of wine and how they can get a lot of different things. And then you can kind of take that vision and apply it to the apple and have something similar. So the end of this is we've all decided cider is wine. Okay. The guys are going to kill me for saying that, so I'll take it back now. But yeah, I did. You're right. I said so. One of the things I want to talk about is just we were talking about, you have a lot of new products come out all the time. It's always changing. So, what are some of the new things that came out this year that people will be excited to try, and maybe talk a little bit about them, like what kind of things they might be looking for?
We've been releasing lots of new, I think kind of things that are unique possibly in the world, definitely first for us. So, we've been expanding our champagne method program. So this year we've released the first Rosé Perry in the world. I think we're certainly the first Rosé champagne method Perry. We're about to release a champagne method Perrier, like a non-rosé one, which is the first for us. Still Perry, we've worked with cherries. I mean, we're just doing all sorts of things. I mean, so it's been, I think we've been blessed with this amazing fruit from 2021 and 2022, and that's given us all these possibilities. And we kind of lucked out that we decided to expand just as you have a couple of great vintages. So we can do all these things. We have the space in which to do it as well. So it's been a lot of fun. And we have more to come.
And of course, you'll be announcing those first and foremost on the Neutral Cider Hotel.
Pretty much exclusively to the Neutral Cider Hotel, because we've got so busy with just the business of the act of making cider and the business of making cider that we kind of don't do as much promotion of the new stuff. It gets kind of released and it goes out there, but we've lost the kind of hoo-ha about it that we used to do. And we kind of probably need to get back to that. So if the Neutral Cider Hotel would like to take over that role, then we're very, very happy with that. Yeah, that'd be great. Unpaid, of course. Yeah, you know.
That's the way it is. You were talking about some of the fun ones that we've really enjoyed. We have been working a fair bit over the years with Egremont Russet as well. So Wading In was one of the ones that we tried last night. And this is the second iteration of Wading In. But just the flavours and the intrigue and I don't know, the mouthfeel of this, it's enjoyable on its own, or it's great with food. James, what do you think about Wading In that's made it quite special, the latest vintage?
I don't know. I think it's just a really beautiful expression of the apple variety, and it's an amazing eating apple, but with this incredible depth of flavour, this perfume, this fruit, this kind of herbal quality, and all of that comes through fermentation, which is really rare. Like most, juice doesn't taste the same at the beginning as it does at the end, but a lot of the characteristics of that raw fruit translates into the final cider. And Egremont Russet loves barrels, and we put it into some really nice barrels, and it picks up all the best influences of the barrel, but retains its own personality. So it's kind of, you get this lovely tension in the liquid that is really, it's just fascinating. And every mouthful changes, and it's like, it's a pleasure to drink.
Okay, I want to make sure I at least shout out the one that, again, I've loved every single one I've had, but that cherry one that we had last night was just like stunning. So what is the name of that one again?
So that's called Tiboldi Go, Who Mourns for Grapes. So Tiboldi Go is a Star Trek thing, as most people will know. And we used to do a thing called Do It Puritan, which is this more experimental range of ciders and perries. We're kind of moving it towards Tiboldi Go, and it's about taking steps into fermentation which other people maybe haven't done before. This one is a blend of 3 different fruits, so apples, sour cherries, and a mixed bag of perry pears. The apple variety was Discovery, and it sort of started life in July a year or so ago with a carbonic maceration of the sour cherries, which is a technique borrowed from wine. We then pressed it with Discovery apples. We later blended it with perry pears and then sent it to bottle as a kind of pet nap, but we did it with quite a lot of sugar because we knew it would throw a lot of sediment. So we wanted high pressure in the bottle so that we could then disgorge it and get a nice clear, this kind of ruby colored liquid that we ended up with. So it was a kind of pure idea in my head about how these flavors might interplay. And I think it's been really successful. It tastes really, really good.
It's a smasher for sure, no question. Okay, we'll wrap this up here with one last question, which is, you said you've got some new products, which I know you're excited for, but in general, the cider scene and things that are happening for you guys, what's your outlook, say, in the next year? What are you excited about for the future of cider here in the next year or so?
Oh, that's a really, really fun question. I think there are more producers being really ambitious, and that's the fun stuff. They're gaining confidence, so they might go for a traditional method, cider or perry, whereas before they might have played safe. So overall, I think we're going to see more exciting things appearing, and I think we're hoping that the government change and giving a small producer discount will encourage the smaller producers to look to the future. And as more people come in, the whole craft scene, we want it to continue blossoming. So we're looking forward to working with everyone, sharing our ciders further. And you never know, hopefully getting to the States as well. That would be really fun, wouldn't it, James?
Absolutely.
Well, for those that are interested in Little Pomona in the States, there is an outlet, and it's Ancho. They have a little online store. If you go to their website, you can find some stuff there, and it's definitely a great place to start because, like I said, you guys have, without question, some of my favorite ciders out there. So thank you so much for taking the time, and look forward to catching up with you again soon.
it's time for this week's interview. Martin, please welcome our returning guests to the show.
Yeah, it feels a bit like deja vu, but these guys were the first guests on our podcast. They bring style and substance to the world of dry cider in Herefordshire. Between them, they've written a beautiful book, The Cider Insider, co-published a zine, Graftwood, and messaged me non-stop about Neutral Milk Hotel. So checking into our hotel tonight and bringing something a little bit different, it's James, Susanna, and Blair of Little Pomona.
Hey.
Guys, welcome again to the hotel.
Thank you.
You're our second guest, and you were our first guest, but you were our second guest because technically Tom was. So this is the repeat first second.
Oh boy.
Wow.
So confusing.
The returning of the first repeat, third, second, first.
Third of their name.
Superb.
Well,
We're very honoured to be
Yeah.
whatever it is you just said. So,
we did. We liked the bar at the hotel, so we thought we had to come back and just, see if it was still,
Yeah,
exactly.
Rumor has it that we're actually going to be doing something completely different, and you're going to be taking over for us. And we're actually going to be having a tasting of some still ciders courtesy of the Little Pomona. So do you want to tell us about what the Little Pomona have been up to and what we're doing tonight?
yeah.
Sure. Well, this is going to be our first tutored tasting online, and it's a
Honoured.
it is, I know. It's really
You guys are the guinea pigs.
yeah, exactly. We're going to learn everything tonight.
What's worse is you're going to take it back and you're going to be like, all right, so we have to pause every 5 minutes for weird jokes that don't make sense. That's what actually happens.
So they've got a bell they can ding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so,
Don't worry, James is on hand for the jokes. We'll be fine for that.
So, all right. So first off, explain to us what we're doing properly and also the benefits we can reap from it.
Okay.
Wow.
Over to you, James. This is your...
Go. Well, the idea, I've seen a lot of these things going on in the wine business. So there's lots of wineries and wine companies sending out small samples to do with to do exactly what we're planning to do. And then, of course, I thought with cider it's going to be difficult because they're all sparkling. So this decanting sparkling cider into small bottles and sending them out, waiting for a few days is probably going to be difficult. And then I went, wait a minute, we make loads of still ciders. We can actually do this. And also the idea was that we could, there's a lot of online cider tastings and they're great. And we participated in lots of them. But, if you're tasting 5 ciders, you're probably spending 50, 60 quid to get the pack. And then you have to open all 6 of them or whatever. And it becomes a very expensive or an exercise in which you can only participate in small amounts. So I thought, well, if we can do this and make it affordable, people can try 5 different things and it doesn't break the bank. So that's kind of it. So.
Yeah.
And also, dry cider is super cool at the moment. So, and still cider is the coolest of all ciders. So we wanted to bring an experience of some of our favorite styles of ciders to anyone who wanted to participate. Really. So, that's
particularly to the hotel.
Yeah.
The hotel bar, obviously.
Of course.
Yeah.
So,
I also wanted to add that you won't need a bucket. There's no need for like Grant's spill bucket or anything.
Well, I've already opened a bottle and had to clean up with a towel at the start of this episode. I had a bottle of this Burrow Hill and it went everywhere. So thanks. I really appreciate you thinking of me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Creating a business model for it.
We're gonna have our own branded line of buckets coming out soon.
Oh my God.
We need to get money in somehow.
Tune in and chuck out the slops with Neutral Cider Hotel. So well, let's start here. Little Pomona, Susanna, James, you've been on the show. Blair, what are you bringing to the team? Like our listeners don't know you. So who are you?
Well, I'm an assistant cider maker here at Little Pomona. Not an assistant, the assistant. It's just the 3 of us, really. So
Assistant to the cider maker.
Yeah.
No, it's an important, Blair. It's an important distinction. Like, I'm not, a ciderologist. I'm the ciderologist. You are the assistant cider maker. Own it, my friend. This is important.
Well, yeah.
The assistant cider maker at the Little Pomona.
I didn't want people to get the impression that we were like a big cider factory or anything like that. It's just, it's a small operation.
Yes.
Anyways,
that's Ryan.
You are the one and only.
I was a hobby cider maker for a long time, working in tech, and then kind of decided to leave the tech world, and simultaneously decided to move over to the UK to kind of help out for Harvest, and just ended up staying. So I thought I would kind of be here for 6 months or something like that, but I'm like 6 months from the end of my visa now, so it's crazy. Yeah. But
So
I'm going to try and get a new visa. So
yeah, so this box, guys, do you want to tell us what's in it and what we're going to be doing tonight with it?
Yeah. Well, we got 5 still ciders, and they are Old Man and the Bee 2018. The second one will be Somerset Red Streak, which is not yet released yet, but it's from 2019. Then we have Orange Cider, or aka the cider with no name. The fourth one is Netherwood Estate, and the fifth one is a very special Solera Foxwell.
Oh,
Special.
But we're just going with 3 tonight, aren't we?
But we're just going to go with 3 tonight, and we're going to do the first 3. So Old Man, Somerset Red Streak, and Orange Cider.
well, guys, first off as well, these gorgeous little medicinal bottles. Just going to crack it and say cheers.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Cheers.
Let's do it.
Full to the brim, mate. I nearly spilled it all over my computer.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I should warn you about that.
That's how you... How do you stop it getting oxidized? Well, you just make sure there's no room for it. That's the...
You've got it. Well, yeah, I could tell you, we did a very complex thing. We sterilized the bottles. We then filled them with CO2 and then filled them right to the top. So we tried to eliminate oxygen as far as possible in the process.
And obviously no issues with stabilization because they are bone dry. And you're obviously big fans and big advocates of bone dry ciders. We'll obviously have a bit of a natter with that as we go through. So first up, what have we got?
So first up is the Old Man and the Bee 2018, which is the 4th vintage of Old Man and the Bee in a row that we've released. The idea behind Old Man and the Bee is it's a reflection of the season in which the fruit was grown, the fruit itself, and the piece of land, which is our home orchard here in Thornbury, on which the fruit is grown. And we do that without, well, up until this point anyway, without the use of oak. So this guy is a blend of predominantly Dabinet and Harry Masters Jersey. I think it's 50% and 37.5%. And a little bit of Ellis Bitter. And just before we bottled it, we decided to add a bit of Foxwell just to lift the acidity a bit. 2018 was a super ripe year. So you've got a lot of phenolic development, a lot of tannins, but the acids were quite low. So we needed to spike that up a bit with some Foxwell.
So while you're having a wee taste there, what we hope is that we can kind of show different stories when we're having our tasting. And what's really fun is that actually it's a sellout. So that's fun that people want to have a taste of these. So this is, if you like, a blend from an amazing year. The 2018 season was really, really warm and sunny and everything like that. So it'll be interesting what people find. So actually, we'd like to ask you what you find on this, because the whole thing with our tasting it'll be sort of interactive and people can ask questions whenever they might want.
Well, here it is. I posted, when was it? It was in January. I had like the 2017 and I noticed I'd had the all 3 kind of thing on the run up. And just reading back then, and that kind of, I said orchard spice, rind and barrel on like that kind of woody note on the nose. And you're saying it's not in barrel. This is like that, but amped up. Like it's like perfumey kind of, there's a little floral note as well. So where's that coming from? Is that just oak?
No, I think it's a characteristic of our orchard. And particularly Harry Masters Jersey, which always has this, the ripe fruit when it's sitting in the shed smells of honeysuckle. It's really extraordinary. And that kind of yellow flowers always seems to come through in Old Man and the Bee. And I think it's a characteristic of all 4 of the vintages. So I think it's the orchard, because there's a tiny component of barrel in here, but it's not, I don't think it's coming from that.
We're going to suggest that folks can obviously taste away and then maybe leave a bit in the glass, and then they can go back to it and see how it evolves. Or
that sounded like a really polite way of saying slow down, guys. We usually recommend you don't actually just neck it. Martin, but why you got a straw?
Don't do the strawpedo, Martin. This is not the time nor the place.
I did ask earlier if we could blend them later, but James looked at me askance. No. So
we've done the blending.
James is wrong entirely, and that's exactly how we're going to finish.
And goodbye.
But yeah, again, I'd written barrel before, and I think I meant that kind of like rich orchardy character. This has that, and also the tannins work and give it structure, but it's not like big bitter. It's actually really gentle on the finish.
Yeah. If you tried it like a year ago, the tannins were not gentle. So the Old Man and the Bee is about time as well. You just need to give the whole liquid time to be what it's going to become. It's just a kind of waiting game, really, just to manage those tannins with a bit of judicious blending as well. So
I think we thought we were going to release this months ago, didn't we?
Yeah, we planned to release this before Christmas, but
yeah, I was told that.
Well, you were a bit busy with 7 other releases, though.
We decided not to. Just sometimes when you bottle stuff, it gets a bit shocked and shook up, and it takes a while to come back together again. And we just thought it wasn't ready, so we left it another 6 months, basically. So,
Blair, you've got your nose in the glass. What are you saying as well?
I don't know. This cider to me always actually just tastes like the orchard, just over that way, I guess listeners can't see that way, but just on the other side of the fence where we're talking. But no, honestly, this cider, and every time we've served it in the tasting room quite a few times, and every time people taste it, they're kind of, a lot of them are shocked, I think, or a lot of people are surprised that they really love still cider. There's this thing where it kind of blows people's minds. And to me, the way that I always feel about this specific cider is that it just tastes like that orchard. It's it reminds me of walking through that orchard on a nice kind of fall day. And it just, I don't know how it happens, but it really, and I'm not trying to bring the whole terroir thing into it, but it really tastes like that place to me.
Well, okay. So sorry, producer Scott, we might need to bring in our friend.
Excellent.
There he is.
Oh, I was hoping
He's
might.
been away.
Dear old friend.
Yes.
Horse of Knowledge has been away getting some new shoes. I don't know where I'm going with that.
More shoes, less glue. It's the horse of knowledge.
You can tell we thought about the backstory of the horse there.
Absolutely. For those of you who are quite new to the show and are wondering, are we actually off our minds? The Horse of Knowledge is our opportunity to give a little bit of sort of educational insight into some of the more technical terms that we're using.
Well, the term was terroir, and I know for a fact I've had it summed up really beautifully for me. Helen and Smith, they just said dirt. And that clears up. But no, Gabe, do you want to give us the real explanation and not the joke one from a comedian?
I'll give my interpretation. I'd be interested to hear whether anybody has anything different. It's about the impact of the place where the fruit is grown, and I would also say where the cider is made, and maybe some of the cultural heritage and the traditions that inform that place and those people who make it. So we're talking about the climate, we're talking about the soil, we're talking about the geology, we're talking about the way that the fruit has been grown, we're talking about the aspect, we're talking about the age of the trees and how many nutrients have been put into them over the course of the years, and that you can have the same apple variety or varieties or blends of apples that in different locations locations and places can produce ciders that taste entirely different because they are the expression of that place and of that time and of those producers. And certainly, I think one of the greatest attributes about Little Pomona is that you do, in a short space of time that you've been making cider, you do have, I think, quite a strong identity in the liquids that you produce, partly from the way that you make them, but because you are, in the main, right, utilizing kind of generally the same varieties, often from the same orchards, but your playfulness and creativity means that you get different styles and exponents, but there is some kind of commonality between them. So how do you tease out these different styles and these different interpretations?
I don't know. The thing is, there's no plan. There's no recipe. It's all, we're still learning. Every harvest is a kind of new thing to us because we haven't been doing it for that long. So it's pure intuition, really. But I think we're, and it's great having Blair as well because he's very sensitive to the fruit and what's going on in the fermentation. So and that's all we're doing really is following the journey of the apples through fermentation. And at some point, if you're listening carefully, these liquids will suggest things to you. And then we try and follow that path. So it sounds ridiculous, really, and there's no way to run a business, let me tell you. We should have 50,000 litres of a base cider and then just play around with that. We don't do that. So we're just following all these little individual vessels and at some point, something will occur to us and it's like, bang, that's what we should do. And this is going to taste great.
Well, one question I wanted to ask on that. We spoke at the episode ages ago now with Tom Oliver, but he was talking about and alluding to having a blend ready in your mind before the juice is there. And you're saying about following the juice. Have you ever shot the gun too quick on a juice and gone, oh, this is where it's going to go, and had your plan changed?
Probably. Well, and actually, yes. I mean, and this tasting will, this tasting will show that, yes, because the third cider, orange cider, was destined to be 2019 Old Man and the Bee. But these two barrels didn't want to be Old Man and the Bee. They wanted to be something else. So we followed the path of those two barrels rather than trying to bend it to our will. It's like, well, they know what they're doing. So just before we move on to another cider, I just wanted to quickly say that this is a really impressive cider, and what I really enjoyed about it was all the standout characters were the weight and the intensity of it. I know, James, you previously had a background in working for Wines of Argentina, and in terms of some of the boldness and the weight of like a big Malbec or like a big Rioja, just in terms of its sheer big, slightly bolshy joyness, but without being hard or harsh in any way, but just sort of weight and intensity. That's what really kind of shone through for me, but being subtle at the same time, exactly as Martin alluded to. So brilliant.
It's a great cider.
Really good. Cool. No, thank you.
Wonderful.
Hey.
That's
nice.
Really, really, really good. So what should we do next? Should we do number 2?
Yeah, do it in number sequence, Bird.
Do it in order.
Okay. Well, number 2, Somerset Red Street, 2019. We wanted to show something that was not ready, or not in our view ready.
We wanted to charge you for something that ain't good. Is that what?
No. We should have thought of that. I wanted like everything else is finished and ready to go, but this is something that, and it alluded to what we were talked about earlier on about pulling Old Man and the Bee and leaving it till it was ready. The Somerset Red Street is tasting great and it's really interesting, but I feel it needs more time in the bottle before we actually release it.
Should we discuss single variety versus blends at this point? And what's your, well, this, I guess we've tried a blend and now we're trying a single variety. What is your approach to those two different ways of cider making?
I guess we make very few single varietals. Because I kind of think, for the most part, apple varieties don't have enough individually to carry a single varietal, but there are some that can. And again, we didn't set out to make a single varietal Somerset Red Streak. And there's a big story behind this, which I should probably tell. But it ended up, we just followed it again. We just followed it. We did a few things along the way. But basically, we didn't grow the fruit here. We bought this fruit from a Broome Farm, so Ross and Y. They handpicked some Somerset Red Streak for us, and I think we milled it and macerated it for a bit and then pressed it into tank and let it ferment wild with no SO2. And to be honest, I don't know if you read the notes we sent you, but it smelled like Satan's sphincter, basically, for so long in the fermentation.
James, this is an advert for this tasting box, and there's people that are listening going, "I'm on the fence. Shall I buy the next one?" And you're like, "This is Satan's sphincter."
Sorry about that, guys, but you honestly, you couldn't go within 10 meters of the tank. It was so bad. So we tried all the things
you gave it a new name, didn't you?
We called it Somerset Red Stink, obviously, after that.
I think that I might have had a sniff of
you did. I was thinking that.
About a little while ago.
There you go. Scott, note there, top of the show.
But we did the things you would do as a winemaker. We did pump overs and stuff like that to try and get oxygen into the liquid and try and get the fermentation to be less smelly. And it kind of worked a little bit, but not really. But over time, the smelliness began to recede, although it remained smelly for a long time. But underneath the smelliness, there was the kind of fruit that I was expecting to see from Somerset Red Streak. So we didn't panic too much. But when it had finally finished its ferment and it was tasting okay, the tannins were really hard and the liquid was hard. So we decided that we'd move it into 3 different barrels, 2 Chardonnay barrels and 1, I think it was a cognac barrel, or was it a rum barrel? It doesn't matter. Anyway, just to try and soften those tannins. And what we found after quite a long time, this was in May 2020, so we decided that the 2 Chardonnay barrels actually began to taste really good and really different expressions of Somerset Red Streak. The other barrel, I think it was cognac, wasn't tasting so hot, so we left that. And these 2 barrels became this. But here we are now in March, and I still don't think it's quite ready. It's still evolving.
What is it that's not ready? How do, for people who might not even understand that a cider can be ready or not ready, what are we talking about here?
I think predominantly it's nearly there, but there's a kind of, when I taste it, there's a kind of slight soapiness, and that there was quite a lot of soapiness, 6 months ago, but it's kind of slowly disappearing. And at the point where it disappears, that's when it will be ready.
Well, you were saying, I wanted to bring up the horse of knowledge there. About pulling overs. What is that process, and what were you hoping to gain from that?
Pump overs.
Pump over, yeah.
Pump overs, yeah. Just to try and get oxygen into the fermenting liquid, because oxygen is a nutrient for yeast, and often when a fermentation is really smelly, it's because the yeast are lacking. They have plenty of sugar, but they don't have other nutrients to help to get a kind of a nice kind of good fermentation. They're struggling a little bit. But the thing is that this year we bought Somerset Red Streak from a different orchard, and it was Beelzebub's butthole this year. So there's something about Somerset Red Streak that is naturally prone to this kind of reductive behavior in fermentation, and it just doesn't smell good.
Gotta say, you've got the variable of the apple, but also you're the variable as well that hasn't changed. So maybe it's you. It's always this one apple. It's like,
maybe it is.
Well, if nothing else, if you decide that's not for you, a future of alliterative names of different products is your way forward.
I can't wait to what the next vintage has like when you're like, the poet. But,
possibly the alliterologist.
Yes.
Always looking for ologists on here.
Yes.
If Scott could secure the URLs and Twitter and Instagram handles for that, I'd be very grateful for
This
it.
is my new side business.
So one thing with this drink as well for me, the nose is so peculiar. Like it smells, there's almost like a synthetic touch. Like it's like melon straw, and then there's this almost like, it's not foam banana, it's like foam. It smells like, well, when it sounds silly, but when you're a kid and swimming pools and you got the pool noodles, it's got that plastic roundness to it. That I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's definitely. I agree. It's not ready anyway. I mean, on the nose is quite reductive. It's like it does hit you, and if that softened off, for me, it would be absolutely beautiful.
Which it will. I mean, I think from a cider maker's point of view, it's tasting really good, but it just needs time. That's it. I mean, it's got it's fresh, it's bright, it's got those really bright fruit. And there's just a few other things. There's a few things in it which I don't like, and they'll disappear. Time is the kind of friend of ciders like these.
And good on you for including that in the pack, so that you can showcase to people that the ciders that you make and in the way that you make them, they are on a journey, and that time is this absolutely incredibly important component that differentiates the kind of ciders that you're making from other ciders which have quite a short turnaround. And obviously with that becomes, a lot of inherent sort of time and taking up tank space or barrel space. And there's extra sort of, cost inherent in that. And that, time is a factor that is so hard to put a monetary value on, but it is something that contributes towards your products and makes them so unique. And so, like I say, bravo for you for showcasing something that you think is not quite there and why. So that's a really good thing.
I remember years ago getting the first Art of Darkness sample with Felix of Fine Cider, and I had that vintage throughout like a year and a half, and it changed so much. So it's testament also as well, you guys picking when it's ready, but also when you pick it, that's like a point in time where until that's all gone, it's going to keep going. So speaking of keeping going, number 3, Susanna, you want to give us the lowdown?
So this is orange cider. This is also the cider with no name, because our label and it's just got a beautiful. It's stripes, and I know our listeners can't see it, but it's stripes with an orange circle, and actually we don't have the name on it anywhere, do we, James?
Well, we kind of designed the label, or my sister designed the label, and we didn't really think about it, and then suddenly we realized we had no name, and all our ciders have a name. Some descriptors, it's just this thing. It's basically the barcode.
But anyway,
it's cool.
This is the one that James was speaking about that was initially destined to be Old Man and the Bee 2019. So it's going to be quite an interesting sort of contrast. People will be able to kind of, it's come from the home orchard, but it's had a very different journey. And I think that's a fun bit to kind of illustrate, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically Dabinet and Harry Masters Jersey with a tiny amount of Perry pears in it. And as I say, we did what we normally do. We pressed all the things together. We put them in tank to ferment. And then we blended them later on. And then we decided in 2019, for the first time with Old Man and the Bee, to put them into barrels. And as I said earlier on, during the course of time when they were in the barrels, it was clear that 2 of the barrels were taking a very different course from expected. And every time people came to the cidery and were tasting the ciders, the constant tasting note it tastes a bit like orange wine, which is probably a horse of knowledge thing now. But
there we go.
So, and orange wines are named, to cut a long story short, where it's a style of white wine where after pressing the grapes, you don't run the juice away from the skins and sometimes the stalks. You leave the juice in contact with both the skins and the stalks, or either or both, to extract color and flavor. There's a lot of flavor left in the skins. And so typically you'll get some wilder, savory more tangy, more tannic aspects to those kind of wines. And they're really, really interesting. And it's a very, very old way of making wine as well. So this has become our little kind of homage to orange wines. And so a lot of people say that orange wines taste like cider, but maybe cider tastes like orange wines or vice versa. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Blair's a bit of a natural a wine aficionado. Blair, what's your...
I wouldn't say I'm an aficionado at all, but I appreciate natural wine quite a lot.
No, you were bragging about it before the show.
No, you can stop talking about it. Hey, guys, going to ask me a question about natural wine.
You said I'm the natural winologist. That's what you were saying.
Yeah, Scott, I need the URL and the handles as well.
Scott's going to be busy this week.
He's earning a treat.
Yeah, with it, obviously, if you drink it and you like it, it depends on kind of your entry into wine, and especially like with newer drinkers, like craft beer and natural wine have a kind of synergy to them. But like just to briefly say, I came to wine from cider, and I remember the first one I had was an orange wine in Slovenia, and I was like, they've made grapes grumpy. Like this is my jam. Like this is what I like about cider. And the sommelier at this restaurant was like, don't offend it. And it was like, no, that's the highest compliment I can fucking give you. But highest compliments to you guys, because the nose of this, it's like ripening mango, leather, tangerine juice. It's almost like a little brandy-ish note, like when you pop a bottle of Courvoisier or something. It's like it's beautiful, and it's also like on the nose, like fuck you. And I was like, whoa.
It's kind of just, I don't know why, but every barrel is a complete individual, and I have no idea why these barrels did this to this liquid, but you can kind of see it's not in the same profile as Old Man and the Bee.
No.
This would kick the old man to the curb.
I think this is one of the best ciders you've made.
Hey.
Thank you.
I've already had a bottle of it tonight.
No way.
And that wasn't a sort of, that's why I'm saying it. Because my box arrived today.
Completely pissed. His box arrived. He had a whole pallet to get through.
Do you know? I think Grant, the reason why you think this is one of the best ciders that James, Susanna, and Blair have made is because there's this amazing extra special 2% element in there that comes from this amazing village in Gloucestershire.
Yeah.
The actually
Dymock, is it? Did you say Dymock, Gabe? Is that how you pronounce it?
It's your Scottish accent is doing something funny with the word dimmer. It's interesting that you've put in 2% of gin. This is a Perry pear. And does 2% really make a difference?
Gabe, I think it was a masterstroke on our part.
Or
no, basically
is there an or?
We had too much headspace in the tank, and that's all we had at the time to put it in.
You're like, quick, let's make a staircase as quick as we can.
Do you think, Gabe? What do you think of
I
the
think
2%?
so.
Are you thinking it's
He can
irrelevant
taste it.
or relevant? Because I definitely think it's very much there.
You reckon?
Well,
I don't know. That's quite possibly. It's hard to say unless you have something to compare it against.
The thing is that have you tried Do It Puritan Perry 2019?
Yes.
So that was essentially the same. This 2% is essentially the same as that liquid. So, and that had kind of a very lifted, slightly funky element. And I think maybe the Dimmick terroir.
There we go.
Could actually it could actually be in there.
Dimmick Terroir is his drag name. Ladies and gentlemen, Dimmick Terroir.
Good evening.
Scott, you're going to need to get the URL and handles of that as well.
You never know.
Well, guys, 3 amazing ciders, 3 completely different. One of them not ready. That's just a standout. But no, for me,
close.
this guy, it's wild, bold, and beautiful. Like for me, Dead Flowers is the cider that I absolutely love from you guys, big time. And also Bashudo was like a huge fucking game changer for me. But this is one of those that I can immediately tell, I need a bottle of that.
Honestly, I would buy it all. I think it's fantastic, and I also think whether it was a conscious decision or not. I know clearly it wasn't because you didn't put the name on the bottle, but to call it orange cider is a masterstroke as well, because I think it's going to bring so many people in to be like, oh, I like orange wine, so I'll try this, and it genuinely, it's not a gimmick. Like I would pour this for people, and I don't think, aside from the fact that it's less boozy, which I personally prefer because it brings more of the character, you might not know that this was not an orange wine.
Aye, exactly. That's great. Oh, brilliant. Thank you.
So
what next, chaps?
Well, I think you were saying that there's a very special one to try.
Well,
there is.
There's a very special one, and this is what we call Solera Foxwhelp.
It's very close to our hearts.
As you know, Foxwhelp is...
hey, it's producer Scott here. James and Susanna spoke at length about Foxwhelp, but unfortunately, we had to cut it for time. Now, back to the show.
Amazing. Could you get a better cider apple than that? I don't think so.
No, it's the one for us. Over the years, that'll be it. This will be.
Let's get rid of the rest of the trees.
So, as an event, where can people find out more? Are there tickets for another one? Like, people want to know what's happening.
So this one that you guys have kindly done is basically sold out. And when we came up with the idea, we thought we'd probably struggle to sell 15 or 20 tickets, but we put it online and we sold 60, which is like completely amazing. So we have another one planned for, I think it's the 9th of April.
Yes.
And that's for club members only. But we're going to do another dry cider tasting as well for people who couldn't get tickets for this one.
Yeah, so if anyone would like it, if anyone is interested, if they email us, wassail@littlepomona.com, we'll let them know when we've set another date, because if people would like to taste them like this, we'd love to share it with them. That's the whole thing.
Yeah. Looking for an excuse to drink with them, I'm sure.
Yep. Very worth joining the club, though, because apart from amazing discounts and other special things, the next online cheater tasting is going to be a barrel tasting. So we'll be tasting stuff from 2020 predominantly directly from barrel. So at a very early stage in their development. So it should be interesting.
One last thing, too, if I can add, is on our website, if you go to the Some Like It Still product, what I'm planning on doing is just putting a little sign up so you can leave your details if you're interested in another kind of tasting.
Oh, brilliant. And how do you sign up to the club, guys?
Just do it through our website. There's a link there to I think it's called Join the Club, and it's pretty easy.
We'd love that. Yeah. It's really nice to have a chance to do that.
Yeah. I just went back to Old Man and the Bee, and it tastes, after Foxwhelp, it tastes sweet. It's pretty good.
So we really hope down the line we'll be able to see everyone in our tasting room when things allow. So, and then we'll be able to pour these for you in person and have that chat. So that would be really fun. But wow, thank you guys.
No,
thanks so much.
Thank you.
That's amazing, guys. Thank you so much for coming down to the hotel and, just allowing us to kind of kick back and you provide the entertainment on the stage and give us lots of booze at the same time, just to make sure that everybody is totally aware of how to sign up to the club and to learn all about Little Pomona and all of our activities. What's the website and what are your social media handles? Where do people need to go?
It is littlepomona.com for the website, and across Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, it's just Little Pomona. So do join us in our journey. It would be wonderful.
Yeah, amazing. It'd be great.
And as you alluded to, you've got a most wonderful tap room and tasting room that is just itching, aching, ready and waiting for people to come in and to be served by you kind people and taste these fantastic products. I, for one, am very much looking forward to doing that. Guys, thank you so much for joining us at the hotel. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Cheers to you all.
Cheers.
And,
Cheers, guys. Thanks a lot.
We'll see you soon.
Cheers. Hey, hope so. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome to the Neutral Cider Hotel, guys. How's it going? How is Herefordshire?
Herefordshire is good. It was a little bit wet today, but kind of warm.
Yeah.
I was saying to Blair when we left the cidery, like I was in a t-shirt, and I said, "Remember this in a month because it will be dark, it'll be freezing cold, and we'll be soaking wet."
But not yet.
So it was a nice day.
Yes.
Yeah, but you remember Scotland, right, James? I mean, I'm
true.
still up here, so
Yeah, true. you got that through.
What's a t-shirt? I mean, it's
exactly. Yeah, I know. We shouldn't complain, but it's great.
First off, what have you guys brought to drink tonight? What are you guys on right now?
Well, naturally, we're drinking a cider made partly with quince.
Yes.
Because that's what you do.
We're taking advantage of.
Yes, the horse of knowledge.
The horse of knowledge has just neighed, and this is the point whereby, to ensure that the full range of our wonderful listeners, both of them, are aware of what is going on, to take a step back whenever we talk about something vaguely technical, and just to give a little bit of an explanation, because we're going to have a range of listeners. So quince, what is a quince, first of all, for anybody who doesn't know?
Well, quince is a kind of really old fruit that is typically made into jellies or kind of paste or cheese, and it's called membrillo in Spain and in South America, and you have it with cheese. But and I think also in parts of the world where it gets really ripe, then you can eat it fresh. So I know that in Chile, for example, if you're a child, you'll have slices of quince dipped in sugar because it's got quite high acid. And if you're an adult, you'll dip it in salt for different reasons. But they're the most beautiful, gnarly, bright yellow fruits, and they smell like nothing else on earth. And that's
really aromatic, really
super aromatic,
beautifully evocative.
Yeah.
And there's a fair bit of preparation you have to do if you want to bring them into your cider house, James, as you did last year.
Yeah, you've got to do a lot of crazy stuff with your quince if you want to make cider from it.
It's a palm fruit, though.
The horse is going to be neighing a lot here if we go into this.
Yeah. I really like that he did it without prefacing it. So you guys were just chatting and it just come.
But you took it totally in your stride, as if it's quite normal for.
Horses neigh all the time, and that was it.
I guess so. Yeah.
Oh, they must be trying to mimic what Herefordshire's like on this podcast.
Making us feel at home.
Is the quince cider that you've got now yours, or is it from someone else?
It is not ours.
No, and we're probably not allowed to say exactly where it's from, except I was lucky enough to be judging a certain competition today, so I haven't done a reveal. I don't exactly know, but it was one from there. So we're taking advantage. We're going around the world with our ciders. So no, not one of ours.
It's actually really good.
Yeah, very nice.
So it's dry. It's dry and it's still. So that's.
And what ciders got you into drinking cider? Like cider makers or cider? Like where did the journey begin with you two?
Journey began really actually in Herefordshire, really. So it was visiting places like Brossenwise Cider and having a chance to chat with Mike Johnson and being taken through a range of ciders. And the first time someone actually gave me single varietals and showed me how to blend them and things like that. And then also Tom Oliver, going to see him was obviously an amazing experience, having never really understood that sort of cider with tannins and where the depth takes you. And then we also, the next year, we went to see Once Upon a Tree and Dunkerton's, didn't we, James?
We did.
So,
yeah, that first time we met Tom, was in his at his table at his cidery, just next to the shop. There's a little room there, and back in those days, I was a wine buyer. So as a wine buyer, you always, in the wine trade, you always when you taste stuff, you always take notes on it. It's just a habit you get into. I've lost that habit since I started making cider, but I should probably regain it. But I've still got the notebook that I took with me, and I've still got the tasting note of the first cider I tried, and I thought, this is different. I like this. It's kind of like an epiphany, really. And that was it was like his dry, still vintage 2011, I think it was, from memory.
So what was it that you thought cider was before you tried that then?
Basically, and I think maybe going back that far, if you lived in London or near London, it was kind of the stuff you would get in pubs. So it's served by the pint. It's fizzy. It's quite sweet, and kind of vaguely appley. So as being a wine bar, it was a very interesting flavour and stuff. And for me, these weren't very complex or interesting liquids, so I would never drink them. So I was not a cider drinker at all.
I think I might have had a bit more exposure because I went to university in Exeter. So there's quite a few cider haunts down there, including the amazing cider pub in Newton Abbot. But I guess they were definitely more quaffable ciders, more farmhousey ciders. I didn't necessarily think of cider to have on with food until maybe also we went to see Simon Day, and he was several years into with Once Upon a Tree, and he'd always had this idea that cider could go with food. So and then you began thinking, and then when we went to Dunkerton's, it was in Pembridge, and they have their cafe right by it. So again, then you can go straight away and try it, and that was so the experience was enlightening, really.
Yeah. So like everything in our cider journey, it's just blind luck, really. We just we happen to meet the right people and be in the right place at the right time. And that continues to this very moment where we're on a podcast with you guys. It's like,
there you go.
It's pretty insane, really. So.
And with your background as a wine buyer, does wine and that winemaking, does it affect your approach of cider making? Do you make cider differently because of your past?
To a certain extent, yes, I think. And I think initially we thought that if you just took really great fruit and put it through the press and fermented it, that you'd make really great cider. And that's kind of winemaking. All the winemakers will tell you, well, all the great wines are made in the vineyard, and all we do is press and ferment them. And there is kind of something in that. But what we discovered over the last few years is that making cider is the techniques are similar, but there's a big difference between apples and grapes. And they're not chemically, they're close, but they're not the same. And just the whole process kind of differs, and the flavors are all different as well. It's just a different thing. So we may have started off thinking cider was just a wine made from apples, but it's not true. Cider is cider.
It's his own.
It's his own thing.
It's his own
and it's very
character,
different.
and that's what we're exploring here.
But that said, I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned from not just other winemaking, but other forms of drinks making in cider making, and we do use some of those ideas or techniques or whatever in our cider production.
What are some of those ideas and techniques that you have taken over?
I think the main
thing, I don't want to know your secrets, but
no, we don't have any secrets. So fundamentally, I do believe in that wine making adage that actually good wine is made in the orchard, and I think good cider is actually made in the orchard. So we are pretty meticulous in our fruit selection and the point at which we press the apples as well. So we're looking for full ripeness in the apples and very good quality, clean fruit. And then after that, we're very clean in our processes as well. And we try and keep oxygen away from the cider. at the point at which oxygen shouldn't be in contact with the cider. So, and that's not a lot different from the way a lot other cider makers, what other cider makers do and what they talk. But I think in that fruit selection, I think that's the big difference between us and a lot of other cider makers.
I can certainly vouch for that as somebody who's had the opportunity to do some picking with you, James and Susanna, and your level of the grading, let's say, and the line of acceptability is quite a tough one. I've picked with a number of different cider makers, myself included, that would pick and utilize lots of fruit that you wouldn't. But maybe that's why my Perry smells of sausages. Not that we talk about that.
If only our Perry smells of sausages.
The fact that you are so discerning obviously gives you a flavour profile that you need. But that is obviously quite a time-consuming, quite an expensive process as well. And this is obviously something that you probably have to account for in your time and your endeavours, but also overall pricing of a product that does start to veer considerably more towards wine, which, in my humble opinion, it absolutely deserves. But that is, how much of a challenge have you had in terms of reaching out to consumers and having that conversation with them about, these are our products, these are how they are made, and this is the price that they are, and taking them on that journey? Because the word cider in the UK especially is synonymous generally with a lower price point. How difficult has been the journey of taking the consumers on this along the way?
I think the key thing is letting people try the cider. Or the Perry. And I really mean that. When we've had a chance to do that, whether it's at festivals or in shops or when we've done Meet the Makers, and then when you have a chance to explain. So people have to give you a little, give you the benefit of a few minutes or whatever, and then they begin to understand. And what's been really lovely since we've opened the tasting room, just a month, but people coming in and people enjoy the chance to try different things, and the prices in our cidery are just the same as our ciders elsewhere. So they're not cheap. They're what it should be in our view. But no one has queried the prices, which is really great, because yes, we are nearer wine prices, than anything else. So it's just a chance to speak with people and let them taste things. I think that's key.
Yeah, I think we're trying to make ciders with real integrity as well, and that hopefully tastes really good and look good as well. So I think if you get that combination right, we're not trying to sell 1 million litres or 2 million litres. We're trying to sell a few thousand litres. So it's easier to find people, especially nowadays, who are interested enough in experiencing new things that they'll get what we're doing, and they'll understand it as well and be willing to part with the money to experience it. So again, I think we've, in terms of timing, we're super lucky, because with the craft beer, natural wine, all of craft distilling, all of this stuff plays into sort of what we're doing.
Yeah.
I think there's for me, there's too many people still in the cider world apologising for the prices, or try having to feel like they have to justify it or explain it in some way, to say, well, actually, the reason it's this much is because it's made this way. Whereas I think, as you just mentioned, the natural wine craft beer drinkers, they should and they are generally more used to that. Do you find more craft beer drinkers, more natural wine drinkers that are coming to Little Pomona? Do you have anyone that literally says, I'm a cider drinker? And
we do.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that I don't think existed for a long time, right? Well, not cider that you're making, that we would like to drink, So what's the audience that are coming in?
You're absolutely right. The natural wine drinker and the craft beer drinker, it's really fun chatting with them, because they're open to flavours and they do appreciate the craft. But also, it's been lovely. Cider drinkers have been travelling to see us. We had someone last week they'd driven 2 hours from Nottingham just for the sort of evening, to be there. So that's really lovely. But I mean, I guess obviously we're still having some difficult conversations, maybe with some gatekeepers, some buyers who have yet to understand the value and the interest. And I think that's the thing that's changing, really. I really do. I think, but I think we have to ask consumers to help us get it changed, to keep asking, so that the buyers know there's a need.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think cider at its best tastes as good as any other drink, and
absolutely,
and the sort of processes that go into our ciders are as exacting as any of the great, be it brewers or great winemakers. Maybe not. I'm getting above myself, but it's getting up there with those sort of standards. So all of this takes time and effort, and that equates to money. So if we want to build a business that is sustainable in the long term and can employ people and pay people well and pay growers well, that whole chain, we need to be charging a reasonable sum for our products. Otherwise, it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. I think that's where.
How have you built it then? How did you go from, so year 1, year 2, year 3? What were the steps that you took to get from, making, when you thought you just had to ferment apples, to get to the point now where it's a craft and it's a skill?
Well, I mean, I think we approached it very seriously. We did something that probably very few people starting to make cider do. We had a business plan. Oh, yeah.
What? Whoa!
Which very quickly went out the window, because in that business plan we decided that we make cider 1 year, and in the 12 months following that harvest, we would sell 50% of that cider. But of course, come the next harvest, none of the ciders that we made were ready. So it was like 18 months after first pressing apples that we released our first cider. So we very quickly ran out of space in our little barns. The business plan went
yes.
But the point is that we took it kind of seriously to begin with, and it was a kind of proof of concept. If we can, Gabe will remember some of our first releases, and you will as well, Martin. They were not for the faint-hearted. They were kind of bracing liquids. They were
robust. I think is the word, robust.
Yeah. But we sold it all fairly easily, thanks to people like Felix at the Fine Cider Company and others, and so it gave us a kind of confidence that we could make cider, and we could then try and make better cider and different ciders.
Yeah, we were still, also doing other jobs to feed into the business and stuff, and that's kind of stopped now as we try and grow. And we've been able to take advantage of lovely opportunities, like when Gabe introduced us to a Perry orchard. So that was a whole new beginning, a whole new journey, and we're really excited to.
The horse.
Thank you. Sorry, I lost the horse for a second.
I thought you were just texting.
I came back. I was texting. Sorry, the horse of doom, joy. I forgot what the horse is called.
Knowledge.
The horse encompasses all.
The horse is neighed, actually, just to recognise Perry, which, although is something that we're all big fans of, and we know and enjoy. Even the term Perry in the UK isn't super widely known, and certainly for our legions of fans who are listening all across the world might not have a clue what Perry is. Give us in a nutshell, guys, if you will, what Perry is.
I'll give you that one. Yes, I'll give you that one.
Well, we're not experts in Perry, although we do love it. But Perry pears are Perry pears are a type of pear. So, and a type of pear you wouldn't generally eat because they either have crazy tannins, crazily astringent flavors, or they're crazily acidic, or both. But they also have a kind of whole range of other flavors and aromatics that you don't get in other fruits, I don't think. And they're famously and fabulously long-lived trees as well. So that orchard you introduced us to, I think, dates back to the late 18th century when it was planted. And those trees some of them are huge, and they're still producing in some years like loads and tons of fruit. It's amazing. But they've got wonderfully evocative names. And Gabe, you know all these names really well, but things like Dead Boy and Gin and Bucks. And,
Dead Boy.
Merry Legs.
Dead Boy.
Yeah, Dead Boy, Kill Boy, Merry Legs. Stinking Bishop. Startled Cock. All the good names.
You want to dig up those trees.
Great single varieties.
Yeah. And I tell you what, because of Gabe, we started making Perry, and it's super challenging to make. It reminds me of grapes in that you have this, anyone listening will know a pear is basically green and rock hard, and then the next stage of ripeness is it's mush, brown mush. And it's the same with Perry pears. They're fickle things, and you have to get them and press them at just the right time. So that's a challenge in itself. I
would add in that if anyone hasn't had the chance to try a good Perry, you have to seek it out. This is the most sublime experience, and it's one of those things which once you try them, then you're forever seeking that opportunity again. They're really food friendly with different dishes. There's real variety and complexity of flavour.
You're right that no one knows what Perry is.
Well, yeah, it's probably important to say not to seek out a pear cider as you would, as you think a pear cider is. Certainly sold as in this country, because that's not really what we're talking about.
Look for the word Perry, you'll be all right. But
Perry's the key word.
Yeah, and I think it's possibly a tragedy in the wings, really, because there's not that many Perry pear trees in the UK. I don't know that many people are planting Perry pear trees seriously. So it's a kind of...
We have to rescue it.
It's in a precarious situation, Perry. So anything that we can do to help promote it, and I think by making it and having the opportunity, be our tasting room to let people taste it, is going to be.
So just for the horse's benefit, to clarify that this wonderful drink, Perry, is a fermented pear drink made from these very specific varieties of pear, grown for the sole purpose of making this drink in a sort of very regional UK context, and a little bit in northern France and in parts of Central Europe too. You can make a drink with dessert pears as well. That makes this quite a sort of a much gentler and softer and probably less complex kind of drink too. And also in the US, the term pear cider means something slightly different again. In the US, it means a fermented apple juice, a cider with pear added as a flavoring. So this is one of the myriad occasions whereby there's differences in terminology all around the world to trying to describe things. And you'll hear me frequently banging on about in person, or indeed in my book Ciderology, available now, which talks about the language and lexicon and stylization. And in fact, in Ciderology, by Gabe Cook, available now, there are pictures of the both of you picking pears on your very first time. I do believe you were gathering a lot of butt on that particular occasion, if you will pardon. Naff.
And the interesting thing is a lot of Perry pears, for example, gin pear is so called because it smells of juniper and it tastes of juniper and herbs, and brandy has got a kind of brandy-esque kind of quality to it. Well, fortunately, butt doesn't actually live up to it.
You obviously haven't tried one of my Perrys before then, so but we do try and avoid this at all costs.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
Going back to the old books front there and jumping off of Gabe, I believe you've written a book, Susanna, called The Cider and Cider, and it has a list, a good collection of ciders and Perrys to try. Is there any Perry in there that you would recommend someone on their journey beginning would discover Perry with?
There's a couple of really great ones. and great people to try. I would. Tom Oliver always does a good perry, but also the Ross cider. Their perries are wonderful, and there's such a knowledge. I mean, I think they have about 60 different perry trees there, and I think they, you ask them. I remember asking him about the actual tree, and he said, "Oh, I'll just go and have a look at it." So they know the trees intimately, and they're into rescuing them. If you're going a little bit further afield, if you get a chance to try Eric Bordelay's Poiré Granite, that's a really, really, really fun one. And what I might do, there's a couple in America that we really liked. I need to just look up the one we went to see. Black Duck. Thank you, James. It's luckily James can remember this. Black Duck, amazing perry that we had there.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the very first perries I tried was the Poiré Granite from Eric Bordelais, and that's just like that vintage. I think it was 2013 or something. It was like an astonishing liquid. That vintage was 3.5% alcohol.
Yeah,
and I just couldn't believe the kind of complexity and intensity of flavour that you would get in a liquid with that sort of alcohol level. It was incredible.
And
it's the real. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, all these perries that you've mentioned as well, you've got some from Herefordshire, Normandy in America, but how does the region affect the drink as well, like where the fruit's grown?
I think...
Well, there's the old story about you having to grow perry pears within sight of May Hill, which Gabe recounts very amusingly and often. But I don't know. You've been the one.
I think actually, I always think terroir includes the culture of the maker as well. And if we include within that the approach, then what I found, for example, when we went to Black Duck, is it Black Duck?
Mm.
Yeah. He has exactly the same attention to detail and desire just to let the fruit speak. So that for me overrides the difference in terroir in terms of that gives you the intensity and the complexity. I mean, sure enough, if we were comparing the same fruit in different places, then when it is riper, then there's more potential alcohol. So you will see that. And we saw that in Kingston Black. I think the horse of knowledge might start neighing again on that one. But we had the opportunity for a horizontal of Kingston Black, which Darlene Hayes did at Ross Cider last year. And that included Kingston Black, this wonderful single varietal from the UK, but also from California. And yes, you did see real difference in there. And that was more due to the weather, the climatic difference.
I would like to sort of move the conversation from what's inside the bottle to what's on the outside of the bottle, because I know that you're both really interested. You're both very creative people. I can see some wonderful artwork behind you, and I'm sure that all of you listening can see that artwork as well. And bright labels and great design. It's more than just a label. You're really trying to communicate something very, very different every time. What's your approach to branding?
I think when we looked at cider back in 14, 15, it seemed to me that every cider label was really, really horrible. And I couldn't see who it would actually appeal to. So we wanted to do something that would kind of appeal, I think, really to, that wouldn't alienate existing cider drinkers, but would appeal to craft beer drinkers and would also appeal to some wine drinkers. So that was kind of the genesis of things, really. We wanted to try and bring people into the cider category and present things slightly differently to do that. Because I spoke about that Epiphany cider with Tom Oliver. It had a label on it that I think he probably printed off from his computer in the office. It's like,
yeah.
Obviously he's improved a lot since then, but it was terrible. Like no one, you had this liquid gold, and no one would ever, unless you were a hardcore cider drinker, you wouldn't be buying that.
When I ran a bottle shop, I had a lot of Tom stuff because it's amazing, but I had to apologize so much just for the labeling to so many customers and be like, no, please just I'd crack bottles so they could try it, because the label, judging a book by a cover, the label did not do the insides justice, but you guys really have brought that. And the Do It Puritan is one that's like a stunner inside and out.
Very good.
Thank you.
Well, you have sort of two prominent characters, I suppose, is the best way to say, through your myriad different bottles. You have the eponymous little Pomona, a younger woman, and then we have this other character who does scare me slightly. I am going to say he's sort of the it kind of figure, especially with your wonderful new table cider. I think is my favorite cider that you've ever made.
Wow!
But where at a wonderful, gingham sort of tablecloth table, our little Pomona is sat down with this dude. Well, I'm assuming they are male. I don't know that.
I don't know. I've never seen him below the waist.
Who is this character, and what do they signify? I'm a bit scared. Please.
I don't know, because he first appeared on our keg project, which was Root and Branch, and this was the idea behind calling it Root and Branch was it was to rip up the idea of what keg cider was and do something different. So. And we wanted something just completely different from Little Pomona because we weren't using wild yeasts, and we were doing a few other things which we weren't doing in our estate cider, so to speak. So we wanted something completely different. But in table cider, the reason we did table cider was to kind of celebrate the kind of true conviviality of cider, and it seemed to me that in the world of cider, you get these beautiful people and you get these kind of strange characters who come in, and so to bring that family of people together on the label was what we were trying to do, because that's the great thing about cider. It's a drink for everyone, really.
I'm racking my brains for the beautiful people right here.
Well, I mean,
yeah, I think you've definitely got more of the latter on this call here, so it must be elsewhere.
I think,
and it's a very convivial drink, and it's
the community. It's the thing, and I think going back to the initial genesis of Pomona or Little Pomona, because we are little. What we wanted, the traditional images of Pomona, the goddess of the orchard, from the best known ones are from the late 19th century, and they're just sort of willowy females who you really don't think they would be able to, handle a harvest or, ward off evil spirits or anything like that. So we wanted a feisty person, because you've got to be that to look after your trees and everything like that. And what's fun is I love it when I'm at the tasting room and people are bringing in the kids, and you can see that the young girls as well as the young boys looking into the cidery window and wondering how it's all happening, and then you begin to think, well, that's what we could do here in the UK. We can inspire the next generation, and so actually it's really fun to see Pomona kind of reaching out in that way.
Yeah.
Well, you run a sort of group called Cider Women as well, Susanna.
Yes.
Which I'd be interested in hearing more about. I'm sure everyone else would as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Thank you very much. Yes, we began that. I'm one of 7 founders, and I'm the co-chair with Elizabeth Pimlett of the Museum of Cider here in Hereford. And it's for all women in cider, so in all aspects, whether you're a grower, an orchardist, whether you serve it, sell it, or whether you're just interested. And it's just a nice space where we can share stories and everything, but also where we can learn, where we can become more empowered. And I think that's got to be one of the ways forward. Sometimes us women, we're too diffident, and we don't put ourselves out there. We don't learn enough, and therefore we're not always in a position to take up opportunities when they arise. So I hope this group, which actually, because it's a Facebook group, has got membership, throughout Europe and a bit in the States. And again, I'd like to, say thank you to Pom Boots over in the States for encouraging us and helping us in the early days.
Because from a consumer perspective, cider is actually it's very equal in terms of the demographic of male and female in terms of drink cider. Certainly much more equal than with beer. And without having any actual empirical data, I very much suspect that it's a lot more equal than it is for wine as well. But that doesn't necessarily, from a UK context, that doesn't translate quite so much over into the production of this drink, although in terms of numbers of people, although there are some real key individuals, and certainly have been for me in terms of my cider journey. Helen Thomas, off the top of my head, still managing director of Weston since 1996, granddaughter of the founder, Henry Weston. She's been a massive influence over the UK cider industry. The chief executive of the National Association of Cider Makers, the UK industry body, is Fiona Tyler, industry stalwart for sort of 35 plus years. So it's an area that definitely needs more celebration and more support. And that's precisely what Cider Room is doing. What gives me some great sort of excitement and sort of faith that this is a drink, this is an industry that is welcoming and open for all, as to what's happening in the USA. Certainly in the Pacific Northwest region of the US, 50% of the people involved in the production of cider, from fruit to packaging, are women, which is absolutely sort of incredible. And so I very much hope that some of that starts to translate over towards this side of the pond a little bit more.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. That's exactly the sort of thing we'd like to see here. And when you do go to a conference like we had at CraftCon, the majority of actual makers will be men. So what we need to do is raise the profile and make it more visible that women are involved and can get involved, but then also enable those who are there to learn more. So to share news, really.
Yep.
2020 has obviously been a challenging year for everybody, and you as cider makers have obviously not been immune to that. So on a positive note, for the rest of this year, what events or ciders or things are making you smile and you're really looking forward to?
Well, I'm really excited to be part of the Discover Cider campaign. And I'm so excited that it's on for a few months. So we've got a couple of ideas. We're obviously going to keep going through harvest with the tasting room, hopefully on Saturdays if we can, providing we don't fall over or anything like that. And that's giving people a chance to kind of see how things are going. But also we've got two other ideas we want to do. One is the art of cider, and that's to bring together photos, poetry, and performance. So since we've been at the cidery, people have come and found us, which has been amazing. And Mabel wants to say hello. Sorry, Mabel's joining in here. So people have come and found us. We've got this lovely lady who's come in and read poetry to us, hasn't she? And then not only have artisan bakers and brewers come to see us, but also we've had musicians, and they've been telling us about. So we had Joe Emmett of the Kilpecks. He came along with the mayor of Hereford one day, and he shared with us the first rendition of their new cider song. So, and he's talking about another song as well. So we want to do that, and do that with our local town, with Bromyard, and so bring people in. And then there's one other thing which is a little bit different, but maybe some of your listeners will want to come along. Martin of Butford Organics nearby, his idea is we have one day which is the Cider Press Day. So people can join and go to see 4 different cider makers on one day on a little schedule, and we'll each welcome them for about an hour or something like that. So we want to carry on sharing the sort of journey with other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And
all of the information regarding that potential tour and things is available, obviously, at your own website, littlepomona.com, and discovercider.com as well. All details can be found there.
So what I can say is we were out. Blair and I were out looking at some orchards today, and there's amazing crop of fruit on some of these trees and amazing quality fruit. So we're very excited to be about to start pressing and making cider seriously in 2020.
And can I mention one cider that's sort of soon to be released? Kingston. Kingston Black will be in the same series as the Egremont was. So it's a really complex, beautiful, again, a small batch. But James, tell us why we like that one.
It was you mentioned Darlene's Kingston Black tasting, so it's slightly inspired by that tasting, and people revere this apple and think of it as the king of cider apples. So we were keen to get hold of some fruit and to press it, and so we did. We gave it the full works. We pressed free run juice into a fine ex-Burgundy barrel, white Burgundy. And let it ferment wild, and then stuck it in the bottle. So it's about ready to release, and it tastes great. It's really delicious.
That's it.
That I want that. That's all I can.
Yes, I want that too.
We want that.
Good. Me too. Even got a touch of sweet.
Yeah. Well, guys, I think that's pretty much covered in the universe of cider in a pretty short space of time. Cider is obviously something that, compared to some cider makers, is relatively new, but certainly in the time that you've been involved with cider, your level of experimentation and intrigue and taking people on a journey from the bottle inside and out has been amazing. And we're all very, very grateful that you're doing your thing and making cider. And the horse is very, very happy as well that you came along. Mate. That wasn't a question of knowledge. That was just pure love. So we thank you all very much for coming down.
Thanks for having us on, guys.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
well done.
We like the Neutral Cider Hotel. Yep. Yeah, we'll definitely check in there.
Yeah.
You just been upgraded your penthouse suite. Yeah, penthouse suite. It's all yours. On us for the night. Go wild. Fantastic. No TVs out the window though. Okay, that's all I can say.
There is a horse that neighs in the garden all night though that we will be taking to the glue factory soon.
Ooh, surely not. Surely not. What a way to end.
The only vegan in the group just shitting on horses.
Yeah, basically.
You're not the only vegan in the group.
No, really?
No, you're not.
Hey! But you don't always go on about it.
So I've never shit on a horse. I bought a vegan sausage roll off your wife at Cider Salon. Yeah. I had to PayPal her £1.
Really?
Yeah. It was trying to.
I like that.
For some reason she had like 5 or 6.
Yeah, got to pile up on him, mate. Yeah. We started
early. Yeah.
Still ended late. Anyway, we'll end on that, guys.
And on that,
Thank you so much. It was good to see you.
Thanks a lot. Take it easy.
Have fun.
James, Susanna, little Pomona, Wassail, thank you. Safe journey, safe harvest. All the best.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Bye.